But here's the thing. Here's the good news, Maryland. Here's the good news, Democrats. Right now, people are paying attention. Right now, people recognize that we've gone astray. And as I travel around the country, what I'm struck by is the seriousness, the sense of soberness that you're seeing in American voters right now. They are not going to be fooled by a lot of okey-doke, by a lot of nonsense, by a lot of negative ads, by a lot of stuff. They want some serious answers to the serious problems and challenges that we face in our lives. So they look and they say, if we're spending more money on health care than any nation on earth, how can we still have 46 million uninsured? And how can ordinary families each and every year see their costs going up, co-payments and deductibles and premiums going up? That doesn't make any sense. And why wouldn't we implement just basic common sense initiatives that our candidate for governor has talked about, that Cardin has talked about, to make sure that our seniors can negotiate for the best possible prescription drug price, or make sure that every child has preventive care and primary care so they don't end up in the emergency room with asthma that isn't being treated properly. Why wouldn't we do those things? Because it'll save money, it makes sense. Why wouldn't we move forward? Why not? Or they look at our education system and they say, we know we've got to compete in this globalized society. So how can it be that we haven't made the preparations to make sure that we're providing math instruction and science instruction to our children that matches the countries like Taiwan and Singapore? Why are we doing that? And why would we be making it harder to go to college precisely at the time that young people need to go to college? Why would we be doing that? At the federal level and at the state level, it doesn't make any sense. And people ask, why don't we have an energy policy? They know gas prices have gone down right before the election, but you know, they have a suspicion that right after the election, things might change. And that's not the change they want. But they also understand, why would we send $800 million a day to some of the most hostile nations on earth, funding both sides of the war on terrorism? Why would we do that? Why wouldn't we harness biodiesel and solar power and wind power and make our cars more efficient and retrofit our buildings? Why wouldn't we do things like that? That's not Republican or Democrat. And by the way, in the process, we might be saving the planet. I know there are a couple of scientists in the White House that are holdouts, but there are another 10,000 who say this climate change thing is for real. We might want to do something about that. And most of all, they look at Iraq and they say, how can it be that after 9/11 we were unified as a country and the world was saying we are all Americans? And somehow we ended up spending $320 billion and counting. And more importantly, we've sacrificed the lives of some of our most precious young men and women, given their ultimate measure of devotion. Another several thousand coming back, their limbs severed, their nerves shattered, their lives turned upside down. And every one of us here are patriots, and we would all pick up arms ourselves if we thought that that would prevent another 9/11. But when we understand that this was an ideologically driven war, and we understand that we didn't have the facts, and we recognize that the president's intelligence estimates themselves say that this has made us less secure, and that has increased the number of terrorists, then people say, why don't we come up with policy that matches the might of our military with the finesse of our diplomacy and the strength of our alliances? Why would we not pursue the same bipartisan strategies that got us through the Cold War and defeated a much greater enemy in the Soviet Union? Why wouldn't we do that? And so, taken together, people are in a serious mood, and that's some good news, people. Because when people pay attention, then the Democrats do just fine. When people pay attention, they start looking at Mark O'Malley's record, and they say, look what a great job he's done in Baltimore and focusing on young people and focusing on schools and expanding services and keeping the budget balanced. And he says, and people say, well, that'd be a pretty good guy to run Maryland. Why don't we try that? And then he's got a good-looking guy next to him named Anthony Brown, who's been doing his good work down in the legislature. They say, we might want to give him a shot. And then they understand, when they're paying attention, they say, we can't keep on having a Senate that's just a rubber stamp for George Bush. So we want to take a look at who is a track record that doesn't just talk the talk, doesn't just look good on TV, doesn't just have a pretty smile, but somebody who's actually done the work and showed backbone, and has been willing to stand up when you needed somebody to stand up, and has voted no when you needed a no, and voted yes when you needed a yes. And so they look at Ben Cardin and they say, he's been with us, so we're going to be with him in this election. Because the fact is that, here's a secret. The American people are at their core a decent people. They get confused sometimes. You know, they listen to Rush Limbaugh. Mainly they're just busy and they're tired and they're not paying attention. You know, they don't have time to look at the briefing book on North Korea. They're not reading the entire federal budget to see what's in there. They're trying to make sure that their kids get to school on time and get to the job on time and do the things that we do when you're not obsessing about politics all the time. But what they also understand is that when they come together, our country is stronger. And they're tired of being divided. And the only thing that's going to prevent us from making sure that we have a change here in Maryland, and that we elect Martin O'Malley and Anthony Brown, and that we elect Ben Cardin, the only thing that's going to make a difference is if we don't apply the effort that hope requires in these last few days. If we somehow get distracted and confused. Because if we're focused, then we're going to deliver and we're going to win. If we concentrate these next 3 days, we will win. And let me just say one last thing, which I think is important, particularly about Ben's race. Because I know there's been a lot of talk about how this is a competitive race because Michael Steele's African American, and you know, Maryland you know, has a wonderful African American community, and I understand all that. But you know, and I just want to be honest with people here. I think it's great that the Republican Party has discovered black people. I'm being sincere here now. I want them to compete for the African American vote. I think that's terrific. Because I think it will make for a stronger democracy if they're paying attention to all facets of Maryland and not just one portion of Maryland, not just the 1% that they've been serving over these last several years. I think it's a good thing. And so I don't want to be discouraging, and I think we should take those efforts seriously. But here's the thing, Maryland, I think everybody needs to understand that you don't vote for somebody because of what they look like. You vote for what they stand for. You vote for what they stand for. I don't want anybody voting for me because of what I look like. I don't want you voting for somebody because of what they look like. So listen, here's my message. I mean, do a comparison. You know, do the taste test. You know, take a look at Michael Steele's record and what he stood for, and take a look at Ben Cardin's record and what he stood for. And I want everybody to be informed, and I want everybody to pay attention. And because I have confidence that if you look at the agendas and the track record and where they've been all these years, then I think you will have confidence that Ben Cardin is your man.